Hello. I think I said that I wanted to do this at 1:30, but I have a meeting at 2 o'clock, so I'm going to have to make it a little bit earlier. Um, my name is Marcy Abadi Rhodes. And I want to come out and I'm going to share with you this book that I'm reading called Never Binge Again. So, as a form of introduction, let me introduce myself first. I'm for those of you who don't know me, I'm an architect in Dallas, Texas, but I'm also have gone through a little health journey that has taught me that I am I'm a compulsive overeater. I eat compulsively. I binge eat. I have a propensity to, just whenever I'm feeling something uncomfortable, the first thing I want to do is go eat. So so one of the things that I have learned to do is to turn that little voice in my head off, and not ignore it, basically, the one that's calling me to eat the food. So, and I basically lost 50 pounds a year ago. I've been keeping it off for about a year, working a program that I'm now a coach. But that's not why I'm here to tell you this. I wanted to come out. I mean, of course, if you need my help, I'm happy to help you. But really, it's this book that somebody recommended that I wanted to come out and talk to you about. This Dr. Glenn Livingston, he's a PhD, and he wrote this book. And he was also similar to me. He used to be part of a 12-step program that talked about us being powerless over food, and that we eat compulsively because we are powerless and we just get driven to do it. So what I believe that. I do believe that I have this drive to do it. So he describes it a little bit more in detail about what this drive is and how we can control it. And so he says there's a solution to this. This is where he's going to teach us a mind trick, a trick that it's going to help us develop a way to control the food or the urges to eat, and to overeat. And there's a there's a sabotager or a saboteur, a person inside us that's called, what he's calling it, your inner pig, or he also called it your fat thinking self. Your fat thinking self, or your inner pig, is actually wanting you to not succeed. He wants you to eat. He's telling you, convincing you how good it is to go eat. And then it's funny because he's in the introduction, this guy says, "This can't possibly be true." He puts it in quotations, and he goes, "Sincerely, your fat thinking self." So your fat thinking self, or my fat thinking self, or my inner pig, is trying to convince me that this isn't going to work. This book is not going to work. This new method is not going to work. So so we have to have a trick. Basically, we have to trick ourselves into believing that we can. And one of the things that I know is that we've been programmed since we were born to connect food with comfort. It's like the minute we were born, we're crying, and the first thing that you do to a newborn is you give it some food, or you give it a bottle so it'll soothe it. And then if you have a toddler, or when you were a toddler and you were like screaming in the back seat of your car, what'd your mom do? Give you cookies or Cheerios to eat. And then later on, when you were when you were older, and you were in school after your soccer game or basketball game, hey, let's go get some Slurpees. And then after that, when you get older as an adult, you actually, hey, I had a long day at work, let's go eat something, or let's go have some ice cream, or let's go have some dinner, or whatever. Everything that we get connected to the idea that food is comfort, and that anytime we're feeling something uncomfortable, we want to go eat because it'll make us feel better. So he says that it's not that you have a weight problem or that you have difficulty sticking to things. It's that this is a reality. It's a survival drive gone wrong. It's, it's almost like we feel like we're gonna die if we don't have that food, and that's an incorrect way of thinking about it. So it's a survival drive that has gone wrong. So he says, as soon as we realize that it's not about that we don't have the capacity to lose the weight or keep it off, and it's more than that. It's how to live, how to cope with life without going to the food. So this system that he's thinking about is the way that he's going to describe this to us. So he says that, warning, your fat thinking alter ego does not want you to read this book. Okay, I've heard, so as I'm working on myself, my fat thinking self, or my pig inside, is doing push-ups outside, trying to, getting stronger so that he can lure me back into my old habits or bad habits. So your fat thinking self says things like this. And I'm going to read it to you because it's so funny. You've got to be kidding me. Another diet plan? There's no way we could ever do this. You're too weak. You never stick with the hard and fast food rules. Besides, you were just going to eat like rabbits for the rest of your life? Come on. Just put the book down and let's go have a little binging party. Can't we? Huh? And so that's actually what our inner fat thinking self tells us. So, and absolutely everything about what you eat, when you eat, and when you eat is entirely up to you, he says. I have control over not listening to that stinking thinking in my head, right? So, and it's another thing that my fat thinking self would tell me is when I say, okay, I'm not going to have that food right now. I'm not going to have that chocolate. He says, are you really never going to cross that line again? That's just a setup for you to feel guilty when you binge and you know it. Do you really need more guilt in your life? Now just go get some comfort food. It'll be yummy, dear. And sincerely, your fat thinking self. So that's exactly right. My fat thinking self, my stinking thinking, my pig inside is telling me that this is not going to work. Just why even bother? So it makes us feel like shame and guilt and all that. And so becoming occupied with guilt and shame is what makes me want to go eat. So the next thing he talks about is that your fat thinking self is going to want to sabotage your entire plan, your entire program, your entire journey is going to be, he doesn't want you to succeed. And then so he says, fear and guilt and failure stops people from ever starting, right? So I feel fear that, oh my God, they're right. I'm too weak. I'm never gonna make it. This is too hard for me. I'm never gonna not be able to do. This, and that's what I start believing. So it's like this. So here's the trick he's gonna show us throughout the book. If you have a 5-year-old who has a bicycle and it wants to go up this really steep hill, are you the kind of parent that will tell your 5-year-old kid, no, don't even bother. That hill is too steep for you. You cannot go up that hill. There's no way. You'll never make it. So just don't even bother. Let's go get some ice cream. Or are you the kind of parent that says, you can do this. You have strength in your legs and you just keep pedaling and I'm right there behind you and don't worry and we'll make it. So even though that 5-year-old may not make it the first time, the fact that we're encouraging that 5-year-old to go up that hill, even though it looks hard, even though they may not make it the first time or the second time, it's actually that's the way we combat this thinking is by being encouraging and squashing that mentality that we can't do it. So we're tricking ourselves into believing, so we're acting as if we can do this. And the more we act as if we can do it, we won't let fear take over. So I read another book that talks about fear being part of you, but you don't have to let it drive your bus or drive your car. It could be in the back seat. You just don't, it doesn't have to give you directions. And so you're driving the car. So in my life, this is a mindset that people stop binging when they start believing that they can stop. So it says, basically knowing that even if you fall down, it's progress, not perfection. So even though you may not succeed the first time you try, or let's say you're working a program and you have a slip, you went out to eat and you decided to have a drink. So are you completely throw up your hands and go, well, I had a drink or I had a piece of cake, so I guess I'm done. I'm never gonna, start this again. No, so you basically say, okay, so fine. So I had a piece of cake, so my next meal I can start again. So it's not this all or nothing mentality that your fat thinking self wants you to believe. So and then therefore, we confidently tell you that your fat thinking self no longer has the power to undermine your efforts with fear of failure, guilt, and shame. We're not going to believe them. No matter what my fat thinking self tells me, I'm not going to believe it. So, because I just don't believe it. So that's where that mentality of not believing them or believing that thought process allows us to cage in that, but what he's calling it his pig, with all the pig squeals, and basically creating a cage around it and not listening to it. So we are reprogramming our brain to not listen to that pig squealing inside, going, oh my God, I want to eat. So we're, and it's part of us that I get, I've been taught to, you have to be nice to yourself and talk nice to yourself and give affirmations. Well, that's fine. That's the affirmations we want to give ourselves. But we're not, that pig or that fat thinking self is not me. That's not me. So I don't have to talk nice to it. And I don't have to, be nice to that part of me, because that part of me wants me to fail is what it wants. So we're going to not speak nicely to it, and we're going to be tough. So that pig is not you. That pig inside that's telling you that it wants to eat, that it needs to eat, that let's go have a binge party is not you. So these are things that he describes it as, okay? So you have dreams and aspirations, but the pig lives only to binge. You enjoy everything life has to offer, but the pig wants only its junk and will say anything to get you to feed it. The pig doesn't care about consequences to your health or body well-being or happiness, because the pig just wants to get its stuff at any cost. You want love, learn, laugh, and live your life to the fullest, but your pig lives only for that one more precious binge. You can plan, organize, and accomplish amazing things, but the pig sees life as one big food party and spends all its time and energy trying to convince you to indulge. That's how I used to be. And I don't know about you, but that's how I used to be in my head the whole time. I'm eating my lunch, thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner. Or I'm having a snack thinking, what am I going to get it next? When am I going to eat more of it? And I was completely obsessed with that next binge or that next food or the next time I'm going to have that substance. So thankfully, you're the only one that can feed that pig. I'm the only one who can feed it. So if I choose not to, and if I say, nope, I'm not listening to you, no matter how hard you squeal, I'm not listening to you and I'm not going there, then that's actually how I start to cage it, how I start to get control back. Because I know that voice in my head that's telling me, you really want that, it's so yummy, I can hang up on it. It can call me and I don't have to answer the call. And it says your inner pig is responsible for a lot of your misery in your life. It convinced you to eat all the wrong foods, at the wrong portions, at the wrong times, downgrading your health, confidence, and quality of life, most likely for decades, by the time you became willing to read this. The pig has talked you out of every perfectly reasonable weight loss plan you ever made. And I know that because I had many excuses. It's too expensive. It's gonna tell me to eat a certain way, and I don't have time for that. And I don't eat processed foods. as I'm stuffing my face with Doritos, I don't eat processed foods, right? And I just don't eat. I only eat organic. Whatever my excuses were, that was BS. It was me. It's my pig trying to convince me that I'm never going to do this right. It prevented me from nourishing your body and mind and soul. It robbed you from not only the body you want, but the energy you need to build the life of your dreams. It's the pig that caused you to live with unnecessary weight burden. It's not you, it's that pig inside you. It's the pig that drained your success, health, and happiness. And it's the pig that's making you feel hopeless about ever losing weight for good. But the pig couldn't care less. It's doing all these things to us, and it doesn't care less. It only wants pleasure. The pig only wants its own pleasure, not even your pleasure. It wants its own pleasure. The pig deserves no love and no compassion. It's not your inner child. So that's the thing. I used to think, well, it's my inner child that needs to be nourished, and that's why I'm eating. It's not my inner child telling me to eat this. It's my inner pig that's telling me to eat this because it just wants what it wants. My inner child might have been upset when growing up, and it knew only to eat to feel better. But I'm an adult now, and my inner child might be needing me to become an adult and not listen to that pig because that pig's hurting her too. I know it sounds kind of crazy. I'm talking about all these people like I'm Sybil, and there's all these people living in my head, but it's true. There's all these people living in my head. So what this doctor's saying is that the pig inside you should not be nice to it. He's a bully. The pig inside is a bully trying to convince you that you want that food, and it's not going to let up until you have it. And so we have to learn how to cage that squeal, to cage the pig and ignore the squealing. So it says all the pig cares about is convincing you it's perfectly okay to eat that whole lot of garbage. And what I want to do with you is, remember, this book is called Never Binge Again. And we are going to learn, so now that we know that this pig inside us is trying to convince us to fail and to eat and do whatever it's bad for us, and then we are going to learn through, together, I'll come out and share more as I read it, and I'll read it to you, that how we're going to cage this pig, how we're not going to listen to it anymore, how we're not going to feed it, because we have power of that. And we're not going to listen to the lies that it's trying to tell us, that food's going to make it all better, or that you can't live without that. And so that'll be the next thing we'll talk about is, that we are going to learn to let the pig shut up and not be nice to it. And we're going to, and if you're interested in getting the book, Never Binge Again, there's also a test. Is it worth defining fat thinking ego inside you? So let's see if you have the same issue that I did. It's go to www.neverbingeagain.com and go get the book, and maybe we can you can share with me what your thoughts were about what you just heard, or about when you want me to come back again. I might come out on a daily basis. We'll see, or maybe every other day. It depends on how fast I'm reading and how much I get to share with you. Thanks again for letting me share and for listening, and I'll talk to you again.